Hello and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, hi, I'm Cassidy. If it's not, thanks for always tuning into my videos. This video is to help you guys understand what SPFBO is, what SPFBO is. It's something I talk about on my channel. It's something that my Patreon Discord talks about, and I know that not everyone follows, not everyone knows what it was. So if you are wondering what these videos are that come out every couple months being like, I'm reading the SPFBO finalists, blah blah blah, then this video is for you because it'll explain it all to you. It should hopefully explain some of the rules as well. So SPFBO is a self-published fantasy blog off. It is hosted by Mark Lawrence, who is my favorite writer. So he does the book The Ancestor trilogy, the Prince of Thorns trilogy that has a real title that I can never remember, the book The Ice series, and then there's another one that I haven't read yet. I think it's like the Red Queen's War trilogy. Not that you all needed to know that he's my favorite author, but here you go. So he does this contest every single year for self-published authors. The idea of it is that it will help readers get to the self-published fantasy they want to read, because we all know that self-published fantasy is scary because of the overwhelming amount of it and the fact that it has not been vetted by other people. So with traditional publishing, at least you kind of have an idea that someone probably read it and loved it. So this is kind of the idea behind this contest too. It's that we get a amount of self-published fantasy that has been reviewed and vetted by other people for the general audience to then pick up, because it's less scary picking up a book when someone else has told you it's good. So on Mark Lawrence's page, he says, the SPFBO exists to shine a light on self-published fantasy. It exists to find excellent books that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. It exists to help readers select from the enormous range of options books that have a better chance of entertaining them than a random choice, thereby increasing reader faith in finding a quality self-published read, which is essentially what I just said, but I wanted to not paraphrase and just tell you exactly what Mark Lawrence wrote on his blog. You can find all this information out online, but I know I'm not a blog reader typically, so that's why I'm putting it in YouTube video format, but I will be linking any blog that I talk about in the description bar below. Anything I talk about will be linked down below for you to check out. So this contest is held every single year starting June 1st all the way till the end of April. I think we get our finalists the last week of April or May. In May 2023, that is when the authors submit their books. Now how it's done is Mark Lawrence picks the first 300 applicants. That's it. You have to be first in the door. There are some restrictions on what classifies as a book available to be submitted into this, but what happens is after the 300 are submitted, it goes to their blogs, and then the blogs do a kind of a rough look at everything to make sure it fits these guidelines. There's not a lot of guidelines. It cannot be previously entered into a SPFBO contest. It must be #1 in a series or a standalone. I think they've also allowed books that are able to be read without reading the other books, more like companion novels in the same world. The book must actually be self-published by the start date. You can submit a book in May when you're submitting it if it comes out before June 1st. It's not out yet, but will be out in the next week or two, because there is a little bit of time before the competition starts, but it has to be published before June 1st. And he does have, for the purpose of this contest, self-published means that when a paper or e-copy of the book sells, the fraction of the money that is not taken by the vendor, aka Amazon, Waterstone, Barnes & Nobles, goes directly to the author. If it goes to a second party that then pays you out royalties, it is not self-published. And a book only on Wattpad, it doesn't count because it is never sold. But it can be free on sites where books are sold. It has to be a fantasy book. There actually is a different competition for sci-fi books. But he does say, if you say it's fantasy, then it is. But if it isn't, really it won't get far. We are fantasy reviewers. If it's not fantasy, the fantasy reviewers are gonna go, this ain't fantasy. It's not getting a good score. 1 book per author a year. Not ever, but just a year. No anthologies, no short stories. Books must be over 40,000 words or longer. And then there's just a manuscript way to upload. And don't contact the blog you've been assigned to. And then he has a no rules, just observations. So things that I think could be made clear to you all is it does not matter when a book has been published. You can submit a book that's been published 10 years ago or a book that's been published in the last couple weeks before June 1st. Reviews will be honest. People will read your book and give them real reviews. He says it on the site. Glowing reviews carry most weight when the public understands that if a blogger doesn't like a book, they will say so. I think we can all agree with that. I know that I can trust people's 5 stars when I've seen them give lower rated stars. Now, it does not have to be a 1 or a 2, but if you give every book 5 star, I just don't believe you that every book is that great. Another thing that has to be said, I think, here is that there is the ability to DNF in this contest. Reviewers are reading a lot of books on their own time, on their own free will, so Mark Lawrence has let people DNF, but the idea is that they'll give a good chance to every single book. Now that we've gone over the rules, let's go back into logistics. So with SPFBO, there are 10 blogs. 10 blogs that get 30 books each, which then equals 300 books. This year for SPFBO 8, we had Fantasy Faction, Fantasy Book Critic, Lynn's Books and The Critiquing Chemist, Book Nest, The Weatherwax Report, The Fantasy Inn, Becky M, Before We Go Blog, Queen's Book Asylum, and Bookborn. This was the first year, I think at least, don't quote me on it, that we've seen a booktuber as a blog, which I really enjoyed because I do think that's what we do. We make blogs, they're just in video content. Like, if you think about the term vlog, it is a video log. Like, it's a blog, it's just video format. We are blogs. We just are a little bit different. So I just thought that was really cool that we did include a booktuber this year, and I'd love to see more included in future years. These 10 blogs change each year. It's not like set. We have seen them repeat. We have seen people come back year after year because they love doing it, but we've seen people like only a couple times. Like, we've seen people just like do it once and then go away. Like, it is a lot of work. A lot of time, a lot of your reading. You have to be willing to give up some of your reading to do this. Like, it has, you know that you're going to be reading self-published fantasy a decent amount. You have to at least read all the 10 finalists, and then however your blog does the other part, you might be reading 30 books out from there, but I'll get into how that works a little bit later. Anyways, SPFBO is broken into 2 different parts. So we have phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is when we're narrowing down that pile of 300 books into finalists. So phase 1 is 5 months long. Phase 1 just ended for us this year. Phase 1 runs from June 1st to October 31st, and then phase 2 will start in November. In phase 1, these book blogs, they will read their 30 books. Now, with this, there aren't a lot of rules on it. People are putting in their own time, so it's kind of just left up to however you want to do it. It's not that serious. I myself make it way more serious than it is. It's just about showing off love to self-pubbed fantasy, so there's not rules, there's not restrictions. Each blog can do this however they want to do it. Some blogs will have people read 5 books each, and then each person puts out like a semi-finalist, and then they're all read by the top person. Some blogs just rate all books. However you want to do it, you have to read your 30 books and get it down to 1 book. 1 finalist. That will move on to phase 2. So the best book in your pile of books, which sounds really hard to me. Now, it isn't a given that these blogs will write a review about your book on their blog, but it is strongly hoped and strongly suggested that they do. The only requirement is they actually do have to write a review for the finalists that they choose. From what I've followed, almost all blogs review in some capacity all or most of their reads. I do think that it is nice to not have that, because if I truly dislike your book, I just wouldn't put out a review because I don't want to like do that to you. So once the blog has decided on their finalist, however means that they decide to do that, that is the thing. It is however you decide to do it. You just have to choose 1 finalist. I like when they do like a rating system, and you have to give your chosen book a score out of 10. Also, no rubric, so just like however you want to do it. And that finalist will move on to phase 2. So as I said, phase 2 starts November 1st. And this one runs for 6 months. In this 6-month time frame, the book bloggers will read those 10 finalists. They will give all of the finalists a score out of 10. Again, however you choose to review books, it just has to be a score out of 10. And they have to review their favorite, and they have to review the winner on their blog, but they don't have to review all 10 of them. Although, again, I find that most people review them. We are book reviewers at heart, so we tend to do that. And then at the end of it, there is a table where Mark Lawrence takes all 10 scores and then makes an average score for each book, and the book with the highest rating, highest average rating, wins SPFBO. Pretty easy to follow in terms of like rules. It just happens on such a variety of platforms that it can be very hard to follow. So if you are wanting to follow SPFBO, here's some places that I recommend checking out. 1, my YouTube channel. Obviously, I've been posting a lot about them. I have a playlist on my channel full of SPFBO things. This year I am doing a SPFBO Casties version that is coming soon to you. It is announced in my vlog where I reacted to all the finalists. Obviously, I've been posting SPFBO content, so you can follow me to get some updates. We also talk about it obsessively in the Patreon Discord because I'm obsessed with it. I've been really like being like, everyone follow along with me. 2, obviously, Mark Lawrence's blog. He has a blog, since it's the official place for SPFBO, that has, I think, a lot of helpful things. He has the rules on the homepage. He's also got phase 1 progress, 1 page. He goes over like usual demographics for winners, traditional words from all the titles, how many ratings are on Goodreads. Like, he's just got some fun facts about it. And then he gives like a whole latest updates thing with links to click so that you can go to all these different blogs, because there's a lot of different blogs. It's hard to follow each blog individually, but Mark Lawrence makes it pretty easy to like click the links, go to that blog, read the thing, go back, click a new link. One of my favorite places to look is Zach Argyle's blog. This has all of the covers and the blogs that book belongs to. This is a very great visual graphic if you are a visual person, and if you click on any of the books, it will lead you to Amazon where there's a link to get them. So that one is really handy. I love the visual. When we had the first phase of 300 books and nothing was cut yet, I could only look here. I couldn't look anywhere else because it was just like so overwhelming. So thank you, Zach Argyle, for this blog post. I hope you do it every single year. It's great. It's literally just great. Other places is just Discords that we talk about indies a lot. I am a part of, like, I just like hang out in the Indie Accords Discord, as well as Dominish Books has his own Discord and he talks a lot about self-pub and indie books. There's also a Facebook page for SPFBO 8, actually I think SPFBO just in general, and most reviews are posted there first with a link. The Facebook page is actually like really easy to use and one of my favorite ways to like get quick time updates, because sometimes the official blog can take a little bit longer to upload because obviously someone, either Mark Lawrence or his team, has to then see it and update the blog, which is a lot more work, where Facebook is just like anyone can post and link it. I also know that there is like a Reddit forum for it. I'm just not a Reddit girly. I don't, Reddit confuses me, but Rachel sends me anything important on Reddit, so thank the Lord for Rachel. And I do know that there is a forum there if the Reddit is your chosen place to follow something. I don't know if I know anything on Instagram for SPFBO. It's really interesting now in the world of social media where we tend to get our news from and follow it, and it can be different per individual, but I do think that there has been a great job done of trying to make SPFBO accessible for everyone. And obviously another big page to look is at any of these bloggers' blogs, because they will be posting as well. I'm just not a blog reader, so I need the updates. It's just hard for me to follow 10 blogs consistently, so I love having these general pages where I can see the updates come through. If you ask anyone that has ever participated in SPFBO, they will all tell you that the real award in this competition is the publicity you get. There have been lots of previous winners. Lots of times everyone tries to read the finalists, but even like I read a bunch of the SPFBO contenders earlier on in this year. There's a vlog on it, and I read some favorites in that video that didn't make it onto finalists. Some of the books in this competition have been picked up by traditional publishers, but I want to say that that is not the goal of every self-published author. Some want to be picked up, some don't. There are benefits and negatives to both self-publishing and traditional publishing, but I do know Senlin Ascends was originally in this competition, and I believe, I've heard, so it could not be 100% factual, that Mark Lawrence himself told people that this book needs to be traditionally published, and it got picked up by traditional publishers. Let's go over just like some minor details that I find a little confusing about SPFBO. I think the Senlin safety net was one that could be really confusing for people. There is this thing called the Senlin safety net where you think that you have two books that are really high quality contenders for finalists. You can pick your one finalist and then put the other one out into the Senlin safety net. This was obviously created because of Senlin Ascends. If another blog team has a pile of 30 books and they just don't think that any of them are that finalist worthy, they can then read the Senlin safety net and put that one out. This year we had 2 books use the Senlin safety net and one went through to the finals. One team actually did pick the Senlin safety net, but there were 2 books technically in the Senlin safety net. And so we've gotten to the end of this video where I just want to reiterate that the self-published fantasy blog off is just a competition that's done for fun. There's no money prize. There's all the people doing it are volunteering their time, and the idea is to get more self-published books read and vetted so that when you pick up a self-published fantasy book, you'll know that there are some great ones out there, so that it's not just like picking a needle out of a haystack, right? Like, there's so many books out there. We all know this in self-publishing and in traditional publishing, so this is just a contest to get awareness out. I personally think it's done very well. I have some things I wish it did, but nothing that I expect it to do, just that if I were doing it, these are things that I would like to do. But I think that it does a wonderful job at what it's meant to do. I have picked up so much self-pub fantasy because of this competition, like winners, semi-finalists, just contestants. And that's the point, to get us all to pick up more self-pubbed fantasy. Sometimes it can be hard to find self-pubbed fantasy, and if you're interested in reading more of it, where do you go to find self-pubbed fantasy? The SPFBO competition? Just saying? But yeah, I just want to thank all the blogs who do this and put their time into the competition. I think it's just like a really great competition. I really loved following along with it. And I just wanted to put this out there so that you guys could all understand what SPFBO is every single time I talk about it, because I talk about it a lot and I'm like, are some people just like sitting there confused forever? I don't want you to be. So thank you to all the blogs that participate, all the authors that put their books out there for people to read and review. It can be so scary. And also a big thanks to Mark Lawrence who puts this on, and then also a big thanks to all of you who watch my SPFBO content, because to be honest, when I first started making it, I thought it was gonna flop. I thought I was gonna be the only one who cared, but now I notice that there's a lot of you out here who just didn't know about the competition and, like me, are very interested in it. So I hope that I answered any questions that you might have, but if you have any other questions, leave them down below and I would be happy to answer them. And if you have made it all the way to the end of this video and you'd like to leave me an emoji just to say you were here, leave me a candle emoji. I just feel like I've set the mood very well today, so like candle. And then if you'd like to connect with me on other platforms, my Bookstagram, my Book Twitter, my Goodreads, and my Patreon are all linked in the description bar below. Have yourselves an absolutely remarkable day.